And another thing that I would like to leave with the audience, because I know it helped out me a lot, is don't think of this as a diet. You're not going on a diet. This is a lifestyle change. You're changing your lifestyle. This isn't going to be temporary. This is going to be your whole life. And once you get started, you're not going to want any other way. So it's not a diet. It's so much more than that. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Infinite Abilities Podcast. I am your host, Nick Earhart, and we are here to encourage each other to find our own unique abilities. Let's go. All right, everyone. So I have Elizabeth Yarnell with me today. I'm excited about this conversation. I know it's going to be great. So, Elizabeth, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My journey into my career really began in 1999 when I went to sleep one night as usual, and I awoke the next morning blind in my right eye.
Whoa.
And that's when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And I was told that 80% of MS patients experience significant disability within 10 years of diagnosis.
Yep.
So I was just about to turn 30 and learning that by my 40th birthday, I would be significantly disabled.
Wow. That had been really hard to get that news, but I know from the last time that we talked, you took it, you ran with it, and you came out the let's see, the brighter side. You just really said, nope, we're not doing that. I'm gonna live my life the way that I want, and I think that's amazing.
Yep, I would say that pretty much sums it up. I have always been very stubborn, and I felt like I wasn't going to be that statistic, that was not what I had planned for my life. And I asked my doctors, I said, well, what can I do to help myself have a better future? And they said, there's nothing you can do. You can maintain an optimistic outlook, but this disease is going to slowly rob you of all of your abilities until you end up dying, basically, from lack of being able to do anything. And they said you can take one of these injectable drugs. They're called disease-modifying therapies. They're all very toxic pharmaceuticals. At that time, there were 3, and now I think there's more than 10. But they're all super, super toxic chemicals, drugs. And the great majority of them, and certainly all of them at that time, back in 1999, were injectable. And part of my history is that I have a tremendous fear of needles. I do not like needles. I don't like to watch needles on TV. I can't watch medical dramas. I can't watch movies where there's heroin addicts who are shooting up. All of those things make me quite uncomfortable. I cover my eyes and pull the blankets over my head. And so one of the great ironies of my life is that my father is a neurologist, and here I was diagnosed at the age of 29 with a degenerative neurologic disease. And he was quite insistent, as are most medical professionals, that I start as soon as possible on one of the FDA-approved disease-modifying therapies. So I chose the one I felt would be the least toxic, and it meant that I had to inject myself every single day. So I had to learn basically how to hypnotize myself so that I could function with a needle in my hands and in my body. And I did that very faithfully for almost 5 years. But I was having terrible side effects. After the first year, I started having hives all over my body. A good day was 30 hives. A bad day was 300 hives. It was
Wow.
awful. And of course, I was on the line with doctors and the hotline for the pharmaceutical, and they all said, "Oh, this isn't one of our known side effects." Um, but when you already have an autoimmune disease that puts you in this subset of the general population where you're already more hypersensitive, I
Mm-hmm.
call it the 2% club. Like, if there's 2% chance I'm going to get a side effect, I'm going to get it. Probably even one that
Yeah.
maybe hasn't even been recorded up until now.
Yep.
By the time I decided to stop taking the drug and focus on a more natural approach, I was having seizures every time I injected. That would last for
Wow.
20 to 40 minutes of complete shaking. I'd have to lie down. Um,
Wow.
no control over it. Very scary stuff, for sure.
Well,
So,
so obviously, that wasn't working for you at all. So, you decided to take a different approach. And what was the approach that you took?
so I decided to start figuring out what it was that I had control over with my own body. What could I
Mm-hmm.
do to make myself feel and function better and have a better future? The first thing that I did was start to look at what I was eating. And that wasn't my idea. It was my fiance's at the time, who was a competitive world-class athlete, who said, I think your diet is like crap.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at him because even though my parents were doctors, that wasn't something that had ever come up before. I didn't even know what a healthy diet looked like.
Mm-hmm.
But when I had time to reflect and look at, well, really for the entire decade of my 20s, the only staples I had in my diet were Diet Coke, Crystal Light, and gummy bears. So not the
Oh,
healthiest diet, living off of
yeah.
aspartame, high fructose corn syrup, food
Yep.
dye, artificial flavors, all kinds of nasty things. And of course, not getting many nutrients at the same time.
Yep.
Um, so that was my first prong into what I could do to help myself. And
Mm-hmm.
through learning more about how what we eat affects how we feel and function, I became very interested in nutrition and cooking.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know how to cook. That was a big part of the problem. So I had to learn how to cook. And while I was trying to find a way to make cooking less onerous, less taxing, because
Mm-hmm.
hallmark of MS is fatigue. And I
Yep.
didn't want to spend hours every day cooking from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I had learned through my research that whole foods were better than processed foods. And
Mm-hmm.
so I really needed to figure out how to feed myself from whole basic foods instead of packaged goods.
Yep.
And that's when I became what I call an accidental inventor. I went to, I had received a cast iron Dutch oven as
Mm-hmm.
a gift, and I had thought, oh, this is such a cute pot, but I don't know what to do with anything like this. And then one night I was watching an infomercial on late night TV. These were in the days before I had cable TV, way back in the dark ages, right? Um, so there was an infomercial on, and this guy says, look, I can make your whole meal in this one countertop appliance. And he puts in dry rice and a can of tomatoes, and then he puts like a metal grill over it, like a
Mm-hmm.
barbecue grill type thing. And then on
Yeah.
top of that, he puts chicken breasts, and then on top of that, another grate, and then tops it all off with brownies. Covers the whole thing with this dome, plugs it in, turns it on. And I thought, wow, that is brilliant. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that countertop appliance. I don't have those metal grates.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really care about the brownies, but I would really love to be able to make my own meal that easily.
Yep.
And so I went to my oven, into my kitchen, and I pulled out my little cast iron Dutch oven that I had received as a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have any of the grates, but I thought, well, what if I just kind of layer the food in? And so I put in frozen fish fillets that I had, and I had some fresh vegetables and some herbs, and I put the lid on it, and I cranked up my oven to 450 degrees because I thought that countertop appliance probably got pretty hot. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know anything about cooking. I didn't know you would never cook fish at 450 degrees. That's what you do with like pizza or cakes,
Yeah.
things like that, bread.
Yep.
Um, so I put it in the oven, and in about half an hour, it just started to smell like dinner. And
Mm-hmm.
that just became the way that we cooked for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I actually received a patent for this cooking technique.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have 2 patents on this, the US and Canadian patents. It's
That's
called Glorious
cool.
One Pot Meals. And I
Mm-hmm.
wrote a cookbook and released it. I self-published it, and then I sold 15,000 copies by myself. And then I sold it to
Awesome.
Random House, and now we've sold more than 80,000 copies, and it's still selling.
Wow.
And it's called Glorious One Pot Meals. I think if I tilt my screen, let's
Yep.
see.
There it is.
There it is on the wall behind me, back in the corner there. So Glorious One Pot Meals. So that was my first idea that healthier eating would help the future course of me, my body, and my disease. And
Yep.
it did. And
Mm-hmm.
in the meantime, after I released this, I started taking all kinds of classes. I became very interested in the world of natural health.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I went back to school completely, and I got a doctorate as a traditional naturopath. That means
Mm-hmm.
a healer who does not use pharmaceuticals
Yep.
or surgeries or diagnoses,
Mm-hmm.
but relies on herbs and vitamins and minerals and clean water and energy healing, pretty much anything that's not a pharmaceutical drug,
Yep.
to help bodies heal.
Yeah, and what's incredible is, I've experienced this myself. I have a holistic health coach myself. So, he got me on the right track with my food. And you can really heal your, your body by just paying attention to what you eat and what you drink. Like, and I'm sure you're the same way, or it's all natural, organic foods, herbs are always good. Just natural things. Like, this is how I think about it. If it grows on its own, I should eat it. If it doesn't grow, I should not eat it. That's kind of how I look at it.
I like that. That's a very good motto to live by for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things that drives me crazy these days is when you see on foods, even foods that are called organic and should be
Mm-hmm.
very clean and healthy. Let's just take something that I love, which is coconut water.
Mm-hmm.
Coconut water is so healthy and so good for you. It's full of electrolytes. You can really live forever almost off of coconut water if you're stranded on a desert island. But a lot of the coconut water that you can buy nowadays has been adulterated.
Yep.
So if the ingredients list says anything beyond coconut or coconut water,
Mm-hmm.
that means it's had something added to it, and those things are chemicals. And so
Yep.
even if it might say less than 1% added sugar or something like that, less than 1% sugar content, that's not
Mm-hmm.
the natural sugar that's inherent in coconut water.
Mm-hmm.
That's sugar they added. They put it
Yep.
in. And for
Yep.
me, it's catastrophic, really, these added flavors and added
Mm-hmm.
sugars and really even added spices. So
Mm-hmm.
I love that you said, like most herbs are really good and safe. They are. But if you're looking on a label and it just says something like spices or natural spices or even organic spices, that's a chemical. That's
Mm-hmm.
not the real spice. If it was oregano and basil, they would put on the label oregano and basil,
Yeah.
but they're not. They're just putting this secret name spices, which is a
Yep.
hidden name for chemicals.
Yeah.
And we have the most loopholes of any industrialized nation in this country.
Yeah, it's terrible. Like
It's terrible.
all the food and drinks that are, FDA approved, it's awful. Like I never knew it until in the past 2 years how terrible everything I was eating is. Like it's not good. And when you start eating healthy, like organic and clean vegetables and meats, you start to feel better almost immediately. And then if you would do that for like a week, and then you have one meal like you used to, you feel like crap. Like you definitely notice it. Like it's awful. It's like, why do I want to eat this? So yeah.
It's true. It's true. I can get reactions that range from the classic multiple sclerosis symptoms where
Mm-hmm.
I'm wobbly on my feet, unstable, falling down, things like that, which is kind of classic MS, to strange symptoms like I get a pain in this one joint, in this one finger sometimes. If I ate something like yesterday, I was helping some friends out and she had some drinks that she was sharing with us. And she said it was all natural, but I came home and my knuckle hurt from this one finger. And so I know there was something in it that I shouldn't have eaten.
Yeah.
That's just a minor symptom. Often when I get hit with these additives and preservatives underneath like the flavors, things like if I have a sip of, say, flavored sparkling water, you look at the ingredients on these cans, it says carbonated water and flavor, like no calories, nothing. And you think, oh, well, what could be bad in here? Oh my gosh. If I have one sip of any of those cans, the first thing that will happen is my stomach will start cramping. The second thing that will happen is my eyelids will begin to peel. And I'll notice that they're peeling first because my eyebrows will feel kind of sandy and they'll be a little itchy. And so I'll be touching them and I'll be like, it's like I've been at the beach all day. Like there's sand in my eyebrows, but it's not sand. It's my skin peeling. And then it will progress down across my eyelids and eventually start bleeding if I continue to consume that thing.
Wow.
Other things might cause burning in my legs, like restless legs all night long. There's a preservative called citric acid, which you think, oh, citric acid, that must come from lemons or citrus fruits, right? No, it comes from black mold.
Yeah.
And it's added to almost everything. If you start reading labels and you're like, even like a can of tomatoes that you might use to make a tomato sauce, citric acid, you have to work really hard to find a prepared can of tomatoes that does not have citric acid in it. But if I have citric acid, my legs will be on fire all night long. It'll be the worst restless legs, and it'll keep me up and be extremely painful, and I'll be unable to relieve it for a couple days because the citric acid is so toxic for me.
So when you're eating healthy, like you know you should and you want to, how often do you have MS symptoms?
So I never have MS symptoms unless I eat something I shouldn't.
That's incredible.
So this is the topic of my upcoming book, which is called The Multiple Sclerosis Inflammation Connection, from Life Sentence to Life Solution. And it's all about how once you can clean out your body, like you've been doing, like I've did, and then you expose it to the terrible stuff in our standard diet, then you can really very clearly see how it affects you and how it makes you feel and function. And then you can, if you stop doing that, you can get clean again and you can move along basically at a level without symptoms. I think of it just like celiac patients. So if you have celiac disease, you're pretty much okay as long as you stay away from gluten. And once you get hit by gluten, you're down for the count. And
Yeah.
then you recover and you stay away from gluten and you're pretty much okay. And that's, I think, what every autoimmune sufferer needs to determine is what substances are their kryptonite, their gluten.
Yeah. It's just so important. And it's not just for people that have MS or anything, but just anybody listening, take care of your health. Pay attention to what goes in because it really affects what comes out. It affects your mind. It affects like how fast you can think and get things done, how you retain information. It really affects everything. It's incredible. And what I like is like when I'm eating healthy, I have way more energy than ever before. Like my energy is just amazing. And for me, I have cerebral palsy, so my whole life I've dealt with a lot of pains, and my pain is a lot less nowadays because I eat and drink a lot healthier. So yeah, it's really, really important. So your new book, do you know when that will be released?
I don't. I think
Okay.
it probably will be released sometime early in 2025.
Okay. Okay. So shortly after this podcast is released, you
Yes,
should
I
be
think
able to
so.
find. That'd be awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very excited. I've been working on it for over 2 years, this
Mm-hmm.
book, but it's really the culmination of the last 25 years of research that I have been doing, and
Yeah.
my doctorate and my clinic that has been open since 2011. So a lot of clinical experience in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's really, I love the way that you gave this unsolicited testimonial about how when you improved your diet, even though you
Mm-hmm.
don't have an autoimmune disease, you have something, you
No.
have a genetic disorder that you were born with.
Mm-hmm.
But even that, even changing your diet has helped reduce the amount of pain and discomfort that you thought you had to live with. That was just part of your disease.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm someone where I've never been on medication. I've always refused it. I don't want it. So for me to find something as simple as eating healthy, drinking healthy water can do what the pain meds can do, and it's clean. I don't have to worry about drugs going in my body. Like that's huge. So like, especially for people like me, if you deal with a lot of pains, it's just change your diet and you'll see the difference.
Yep, I would agree. The thesis of my book is that inflammation causes
Mm-hmm.
symptoms of pain, discomfort, and dysfunction.
Yeah.
And so if you can reduce the inflammation by reducing the triggers, identifying and
Mm-hmm.
reducing the triggers of inflammation, which is what I do in my online environment, which is called the Inflammation Academy, where I teach people what do you look for? How do you recognize these things? How do you change your diet and your lifestyle in order to avoid those things that are
Mm-hmm.
triggering that pain or discomfort or inflammation, even if you have no diagnosis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if you consider yourself a normal person, but you just have heartburn sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
or you have arthritis or something that we consider very commonplace and
Yeah.
not a big deal. And most doctors wouldn't even probably tell you to change your diet if you had these
No.
conditions.
Yeah, I used to get heartburn all the time, constantly, every day, and the doctor told me to take this heartburn. It was a over the counter medication. I don't know what it was, but take that. So I was on that for like a year, and then I just started eating healthier, and it was like, oh hey, that's gone, cool,
And if you look at those over the counter or prescription heartburn medications, like they're called PPIs, proton pump inhibitors, like
Mm-hmm.
Prevacid is one of them. They say very clearly on the inserts, if you go through all the fine print on their little
Mm-hmm.
insert page, that you really shouldn't be taking these for longer than 2 weeks,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah.
had a client who came to me, he had been on proton pump inhibitors for 17 years. And he
Wow.
was still having digestive pain, heartburn, and gas, things like that. And his doctor, his medical doctor, would just keep increasing the amount that he was taking. And he came to me, and we did very extensive food sensitivity testing on him, and
Mm-hmm.
we changed his diet very strategically. Lo and behold, he has no pain eating. He completely stopped taking that drug, 100% stopped taking it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's the power of just eating healthy, which is something we all know that we should do. But a lot of us, especially here in the U.S., we don't tend to eat healthy like we should. So
It's true.
I hope this podcast episode really helps people realize that their life can be a lot better if they just eat better foods. And
I hope they realize that too. Yes, and
you're not sacrificing taste. There's so many tasty foods that you can have that are healthy. Like it's just it's not that big of a deal.
it is not. And that is something I love doing. As a cookbook author, I love helping
Mm-hmm.
people understand and learn how to create healthy meals, healthy replacements for the things they're giving up.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I wanted to say from what you were saying is that it's really hard to pull away from what we've been taught and what we've been told and what we're bombarded with in advertising. And so much of our food supply has really been contaminated by additives and preservatives that really shouldn't be in there, and haven't been adequately tested for safety. I did a whole TEDx talk on this in 2014 called Poisons in Our Everyday Foods, because they're just everywhere. The other thing I wanted to mention was that even though you can learn how to recreate and cook healthy and enjoy the taste of foods, once you get off of all of these toxins and additives and artificial flavors and artificial sugars in our world, your taste buds will recover and you will start to taste things again.
Yep.
And so food will taste better in general once you get off it. You may think you love the taste of Diet Coke, but once you go aspartame free for a while and then you take a sip, you'll realize it is disgusting. It doesn't taste good.
No, I used to live on Mountain Dew.
Oh.
Like I had like 6 to 8 cans a day. It was
Oh my gosh.
awful. And I quit drinking pop, and I think it was probably about a month ago now. I was at the lake. My friend had Mountain Dew. He's like, "You want one?" I was like, "Sure." Well, it's only one, right?
Old times.
It was awful. Like I was like the carbonation. I'm not used to that anymore. So like that was uncomfortable. The taste was not good. Like I'll take my healthy water any day over that crap. Like it was just like I was so surprised though because it's something that I used to love.
Yeah.
And now, nope, don't give me that at all.
No. Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what happens when you clean out your body and then you're re-exposed and you think, oh my gosh, this stuff is awful. How did I used to think it was so great?
Yep. So yeah, it's really good. So if you can just commit yourself for like a week or two, you'll see the difference and you'll be so much happier.
Yep. And you'll feel better inside your body, right?
Oh yeah, that's for sure. All right, so my slogan is your abilities are infinite. What does that mean to you?
I love that slogan. It's so, first of all, optimistic and empowering at the same time, because I think that the most essential feeling for a person to feel in order to recognize happiness is to feel empowered and to feel in charge, like you have control over your life and how it rolls out and how you feel and function every day. So yes, did I answer the question?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. No, that's good. That's good. All right. So how can people reach out to you and work with you, your books, all that?
So the best place, the main hub for everything that is me is my website at Elizabeth Yarnell, YARNELL.com. And from there, you can get to the Inflammation Academy. I have a parasite purge, that protocol that I have that you can get to. From there, you can take an inflammation quiz. You can do a lot of different things. You can see my past podcast episodes. I don't have my own podcast, but I guest on a lot of podcasts and summits all the time. Which I love doing because I love meeting new audiences and really talking about the benefits of healthy eating and healthy living and cleaning up your lifestyle. But most of all, the empowerment. You can do this. Only you can do this for yourself, right? Nobody could have done this for you. And if somebody tried to take away several years ago, if they tried to take away your Mountain Dew when you were drinking 6 a day, you would have been pissed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's for sure. So, yeah, you have to make the decision yourself. Nobody else can. I love that.
It's all about personal empowerment, and that's what my book is about. That's what everything I talk is about. Once you make the decision to help yourself secure a better future for yourself and a better presence, a better daily life, nothing can stop you. But you have to make that choice.
And then the amazing thing is your family and loved ones are going to slowly start to follow along. So then you're also helping them.
That is true. That is very true. They will see your example.
Yep. Especially if you're, the mom or the dad that cooks every night and the kids don't have a choice but to eat what you cook. There you go. Yeah. Eat healthy.
I call that incidental improvements. So if I'm cooking for myself and I'm gluten-free, for example, and additives free and chemical free and all that stuff, then everything that I prepare in my house is going to be that way. When my kids were growing up, we had several rules. And the first rule was whatever is served, you have to first be appreciative to the chef. Somebody put in effort to make this food for you. And second, you must eat at least 3 bites and swallow them of every single thing that's on your plate, even if you feel like you tried it yesterday and you didn't like it, because every single time it might be a little different. And it takes sometimes more than a dozen trials to like a new food.
Yeah, it does. I like a lot of things now that I didn't like, 5, 6 years ago. So, yeah, that's so true. Do you have any last words of wisdom?
So one of my mottos is whole foods are better than processed foods, as I shared earlier. And I really think that is a motto to live by for everyone. So as much as you can do that, and if you can find something of mine that helps you accomplish that, like my cookbook, Glorious One-Pot Meals, or my websites, or the Inflammation Academy, which is a great learning resource to find to really dig into the ins and outs and figure out how to do it, because it can be very overwhelming to figure it out on your own.
Yeah, it can be.
So I'm here to help.
And another thing that I would like to leave with the audience, because I know it helped out me a lot, is don't think of this as a diet. You're not going on a diet. This is a lifestyle change. You're changing your lifestyle. This isn't going to be temporary. This is going to be your whole life. And once you get started, you're not going to want any other way. So It's not a diet. It's so much more than that.
It's so well said, Nick. Thank you for popping that in because that's absolutely right. It's not a diet. It
Mm-hmm.
is a way of life.
Mm-hmm.
And it just becomes natural. Like
Yeah.
it's natural for me at the grocery store not to reach for cow's milk, but to reach for coconut
Mm-hmm.
milk.
And one thing that my health coach taught me, when you're at the grocery store, stay away from the middle aisles. Walk around the outside. That's where all the good, healthy food is.
That is very, very true. Although I
Yep.
do like to go into the middle aisles just to be appalled and horrified by the ingredients list on our standard foods that everybody eats that we've all grown up eating.
Yep.
I'm not even going to name any brands or specific things, but you might be able to imagine what those might be.
Yeah. All the stuff I grew up eating. Yep. So, alright, this has been absolutely amazing and so helpful for so many people. Thank you.
Well, Nick, thanks for inviting me on, and I'm so pleased to have been here. Thank you.
Of course. If you enjoyed this show, please go ahead and share it on your Instagram story and tag me in the Nick Heart. Also, go ahead and share it anywhere else that you see fit, because the only way that I can grow this is by you guys sharing it. I don't sell anything on here. I don't have any sponsors, so let's just get it out there by word of mouth and help more people. Alright, everyone, remember, your abilities are infinite.